All right, as we move into Module 2, we are going to start talking about transformations. And we're going to talk about the different types of transformations. We're going to talk about some dilations and what that all means when we do something to a figure. So it's really geometry based. And we're really going to be focusing on shapes and how to move things around. So talk about the basics of a transformation. When we think of something being transformed, right? Think Cinderella, right? Fairy godmother came and she was transformed. She was changed into something different. Now, how different we go depends on the type of transformation. So it says to transform a shape, a figure, or I'm sorry, to transform a shape or figure means to change, means to change it. Okay, that's what we're doing right now. We're just going to be changing figures. In general, we can change the size, location, and direction that it's facing, okay? So it says the shape or figure before the transformation is called the pre-image. Pre-image, okay? So the figure we're starting with is actually called the pre-image. Figure we're starting with is called the pre-image, okay? And we're going to label it A. Now, we're going to do something to that image. We're going to transform it. We are going to change it. So after we do that, after the transformation, we just call it the image. So we're starting with the pre-image and going to image. We're going to label it A apostrophe, but we're not calling it A apostrophe. Okay, so we start with our pre-image, we label it A, and then our image is what we're going to say is A prime. Okay, so when you see that little apostrophe by the A, we're going to call that prime. That's the image. So we're going to have a relationship between A and A prime. A is our pre-image. After the transformation, that's going to be A prime. But we're going to know they're the same image, right? Because we're going to use that notation. Okay? So today, we're changing figures. We're going to talk about in a second here the different ways we're changing them. The figure we're starting with is the pre-image, A. And I'm saying A, but guys, it can be any variable. We use a lot of A, B, C's though. But any letter. It could be T, T prime, right? Q, Q prime. Pre-image is what we're starting with. Image is what we end up with, and that's our prime image. Okay? So let's talk about the different ways we can change shapes. It says complete the following, which gives an overview of the types of transformations we'll cover in this unit, in this module. Okay? So we've got some cute smiley faces here. Notice this one here, right? Sticking his tongue out at us. This one right here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me pay attention. Here's A. Here's A prime. So I know that this is our pre-image. And that makes this our image because it's with the prime. So this is the one we're starting with, okay? So what do you think we did good to go from this figure to this figure, right? How would we describe that? Probably just a slide, right? We just slid it over. So the geometry word for a slide is a translation. Translating something, okay? So if you're sliding it somewhere, it's a translation. But notice it looks exactly the same. We literally just slid it, okay? Now let's look at this figure here. Here's B, and here's B prime. And I'm going to pay attention to that because the regular old B is our pre-image. And B prime is going to be just our image. Okay, and I know that's a little confusing. It's like the pre, we're starting from the pre, but we are, okay? So can this be another slide? Did we just slide this over from here to here? Pay close attention to details, because if you just look at the fact that the smiley face is a circle, it looks like we just slid it over, okay? But notice the winky eye, right? It kind of is on the left side here, and if we just slid it over, it would still be on the left side of the face, but it's not. It's on the right side, okay? So pay attention to details. This right here, it looks like we kind of just flipped it over the line, right? So maybe our keyword is flip, not flip A, flip, or it's like a mirror image, right? So this line right here, just something for like future knowledge, this is called a line of reflection because we're reflecting over it. Okay, line of reflection. So basically, we just, if you were to fold these two sides together, they would match up, okay? And this is the word here, right? If you're flipping it over a line, we're going to say a mirror image, we're creating a reflection. So the geometry word is reflection, okay? So one type of transformation is a translation, another type is reflection. And then what do we have here, okay? Again, if you're just, well, let's get this right. Here's C prime. This C right here, I'm going to make that not look like an E. This C, okay? This is going to be the preimage. And then because it has this prime marking here, this is the image. Okay, and again, from here to here, we want to be careful that we're not just paying attention to the circle because then it's going to look like a translation, okay? But notice we have like even the sunglasses or something, they're looking directly on us. But up here, it's sideways, okay? So it's almost like we're tying a string here, right? Ignore my mess there. And we're swinging it around, right? We're turning it. And a turn in geometry is a rotation. Okay, so we're rotating it from, and it's going to be around a point. In this case, it's the origin. This is the point of rotation around the origin. And we're going to talk when we get into rotations about what direction we move and all that good stuff. Okay, well, now look at this one. All right, so both circles with a tongue sticking out. It doesn't look like it's turned or it's rotated. I'm going from here to here, right? So this again is my preimage that I keep forgetting to write down. And this is my image. Okay, it looks basically that we got smaller. Okay, so maybe it's like reduced, let's say smaller, reduced in size. Now, if we were going the other way, which we're not, we could say bigger, get bigger, or it's enlarged. You're gonna hear that word. Okay, and when we do that, that's called a dilation. Now notice in dilations, they're getting bigger or smaller. And we can't just think about it as making it bigger or smaller, but we're actually getting bigger or smaller from a point. And we'll look at that later, right? That's why there's a reason that's just written on the coordinate plane here. It's like we're pulling this one closer and it gets smaller, okay? Notice that in these three right here, right? In our translation, reflection, rotation, they didn't get bigger or smaller, okay? These three don't get bigger and smaller. Dilation is the only one that does. And that's because we say this is an isometry, okay, or a basic rigid motion. Okay, we're going to change them, but they're not getting bigger or smaller. Translations, reflections, rotations are what basic rigid motions or isometries. Dilation gets bigger or smaller. So it's still a transformation, it's just not an isometry, okay? Same size, we'll say. Okay, so in a dilation, you're going to get bigger or smaller, but that's the only one that you're going to get bigger and smaller in. Okay, everything else is going to stay the same size. Okay, so let's just finish up with some real life examples. And we kind of had done how we can use it like in the movie business with animations. Where do you see these in the real world? Translations. Well, remember, translation is a slide. So think of something in the real world where things are just moving without changing. Maybe on a conveyor belt, right? Conveyor belts. Think in factories or something. Things are coming down the conveyor belt and they're not changing. They're just traveling from one position to another. Okay? A reflection. We see our reflections maybe in a body of water. Right? You've ever seen like the trees being reflected in water, or the sun, or rocks, or whatever. Okay? I always think of a mirror too. We see a reflection in a mirror. A rotation. Things are just turning, spinning, maybe like a wheel. Think of your bike wheel, right? When it spins like that. Dilations. Okay? Have you ever gone to the eye doctor and had your pupils dilated? Say pupils at the eye doctor. Done it for concussions too, right? That's a sign of concussions. As a coach, we see if your pupils are dilating. Um, Something else dilations are used for is perspective. I'm spelling that correctly, in art. Okay, so those of you who are artists, have you ever done like perspective and how you're looking far away at something? You're actually kind of creating a dilation, okay, to make things seem bigger or smaller depending on what you're trying to represent, how far away something is or how close something is. Okay, so these are the types of transformations we're going to be working on for the next couple weeks. Remember, transformations change things. Our types of transformations tell us what change is occurring.